Everybody freeze! Who wants to be famous? Who wants to die for art? I do!
Hey gang, Uncle Todd, Sonny here. As you can see, he's wearing her naughty cap. It says nice on the other side, but she's never nice. And I've got a new decoration here instead of the old tree. Got this at Cedar Point. It is a no boo lamp, but it does have a green light. And for that, I'm like, you know what? Green is Christmassy. And since we did a Paul Bartel movie last week in our Thanksgiving celebration of cannibal capitalism, I thought we'd start out the Christmas season with a John Waters film. John Waters was a independent filmmaker out of Baltimore, where he made a lot of his early films. They were very underground. With titles like Mondo Trasho, Multiple Maniacs. Probably his most famous film would be Pink Flamingos, about two families competing to see which one can be the filthiest people alive. And of course this one that we're looking at today, Female Trouble. And his last underground film, Desperate Living, which is sort of a dystopian style film. Before he hit some mainstream success with a more mainstream film like Polyester. And then his big breakthrough, Hairspray, which has gone on to become a musical, very popular. He also did Cry Baby, starring Johnny Depp. And one of my personal favorites, Serial Mom, about a very straight-laced suburban mom who will kill anyone that does not follow the proper traditions or, well, not obeying things like putting on a seatbelt or not rewinding the film before you bring it back to the film rental place, which nowadays, I'm not sure people remember when we had videotapes and you had to rewind when you rented them. Anyway, the film stars Divine. And Divine was a drag queen, and she appeared in a lot of Waters films. She was in Mondo Trasho, Multiple Maniacs, Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, Polyester, and Hairspray before her death. Some of her other films included Lust in the Dust, a Paul Bartel Western spoof, with her Polyester co-star Tab Hunter, and sadly her last film, Out of the Dark, in which she played a male detective with mustache. A very small role. It was a slasher film, and she just kind of popped in and out as the master detective who really didn't do much. Tracy Walters was the hero in that one. Anyway, it's Female Trouble, sort of like a spoof of like those true crime films that used to come out, you know, and they would give the dates of when someone was doing something, kind of follow their life. And so here we open in 1960 with Dawn Davenport talking to her friends. They're in high school, and it's coming up to Christmas, and there's only one thing she wants.
Don't even mention Christmas, Chicklet. My parents are going to be real sorry if I don't get them cha-cha heels. I asked and I better get.
I know what you're saying. What the heck are cha-cha heels? Good question. So I looked it up, and I found that there is a song by Bronski Beat with Eartha Kitt called Cha-Cha Heels. Most of the early results are this film. But I did find a reference to Carmen Miranda. Now, if I'm familiar with Carmen Miranda, she was a very popular singer. She was of Portuguese descent, but her family had immigrated to Brazil early in her life, and so she considers herself a Brazilian. And she became very famous in Brazil as a singer and actress. And in the 1940s, she came over and had a very lucrative career as a singer and film star with a very singular fashion sense. Yes, she popularized the fruit hat. And her music would have been considered, she did a lot of cha-chas. And she wore long, big heels. So, cha-cha heels. Well, Christmas comes, and Dawn is very excited to see her heels.
What are these?
Those are your new shoes, Dawn.
Those aren't the right kind. I told you cha-cha heels, black ones.
Nice girls don't wear cha-cha heels.
Needless to say, Dawn does not take this disappointment well.
Get off me, you ugly witch!
You devil, come here, you pay for this! You devil, go on Davenport, look at your mother under that
Leave me alone!
You're such a devil,
Don't
you
touch
come
me!
back! Come
Lay
back!
off me! I hate you!
Bit of a spoiled brat. Well, she runs off, upset, and gets picked up by, here, you'll have to see.
Get in, sugar dumpling!
Yeah, Divine gets picked up by herself. And what do they go and do? Well, here. Yes, they find a dirty mattress out in the middle of a field and decide to use it, so that we are then treated to the sight of Divine having sex with herself. Anyway, 9 months later, she's about to have a baby, and the father wants nothing to do with her. So she ends up giving birth on a couch and naming the girl Taffy. And she's very happy with Taffy. That's the last time she will be, though. Then we get treated to a montage of different jobs she takes between 1961 and 1967 as she makes her way in the world as a waitress. A go-go dancer, streetwalker, and a professional mugger. We then move on to 1968, where we learn that she's now advanced to home burglary with her two high school friends.
Sure, girls, put it in the closet. Nobody saw you bring that stuff in here, did they?
No, we got it right down the street. Nobody was home.
Oh, good. Sit down. You're lucky they came in here, Miss Taffy.
We ought to get $10 each.
As for her daughter Taffy, she's very abused. Doesn't go to school, doesn't go out to have friends, make friends. Just sits in there to look out the window because Dawn really doesn't want to give her money for lunch, have kids coming over. She doesn't need to know anything they learn in school. And when Taffy complains, she gets hit. Well, next, we meet someone who will become very important to the family. Gator, who is very, very, very straight. And who his aunt really, really, really wants him to be gay.
Do this again.
All those beauticians and you don't have any boy dates?
I don't want any boy dates.
Oh, honey, I'd be so happy if you turned Nellie.
Ain't no way. I'm straight.
Yeah, apparently, Aunt Ida considers the straight and heterosexual life to be sick and boring. And I'm here to tell you, as a straight man, it is kind of boring. Anyway, Dawn learns of Gator and the salon, and she goes, where not only does she meet Gator, she meets the Davenport. I think that's their name. No, the Dashers. Davenports. Her name is Davenport. She meets the Dashers, who have very exacting standards for customers.
Oh my God, look at that one. She's just putrid. You! Dawn, get out!
You heard her. Beat it.
Go on, doll, get out. Forgive me, Donald. I couldn't help it. There has to be a line drawn somewhere.
You are quite right, Donna.
Luckily, Dawn passes their stringent rules, where she becomes Gator's personal client, then girlfriend, and then that happily blissful day where everyone is happy for them to walk down the aisle. Well, except for one. Well, their wedding bliss doesn't last long, as there's continual battles with Aunt Ida, who's still hoping Gator will turn gay sometime. And Gator has trouble keeping it in his pants, as they say. He cheats constantly on Dawn. Oh, Taffy is now 14, but she hasn't progressed much because she's been kept in a house, and so she still wears little girl dresses and acts like a little bratty kid. Now, here she's played by another Waters regular, Mink Stoll, who was in her 30s at this point, but they get around that with a bit of clever dialogue.
Look at her face. She has the face of an old woman.
Oh, it's true.
Like I said, clever bit of dialogue. Eventually, the constant cheating gets too much for Dawn, and she tosses Gator out. And then, while bemoaning her troubles to the girls at the salon, the Davenports, they have an interesting business proposition for Dawn.
Would you allow us to take some photos of you committing various crimes? Crimes that tickled our fancy?
I guess so.
You see, our experiment involves beauty and crime. We feel them to be one.
Yes, Davises believe that the worse the crime, the more beautiful the participant becomes. She agrees, for a cut of the profits, of course, and if they fire Gator, which they do. Returning home, she finds Taffy playing her favorite game. Yes, her favorite game is Car Wreck, which Dawn doesn't enjoy. Anyway, with Gator thrown out and now fired, he goes back to Aunt Ida's, where she unsuccessfully tries to set him up with a guy. But again, he's not interested and tells her he's going to Detroit to get a job in the auto industry. Ida's distraught. Meanwhile, the Davises come over to Dawn's to start taking some pictures of her doing crimes, and so she starts with unfortunately, Taffy.
I'm paying for that food! Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm going to kill you! Let me see my face more!
Wow. Okay. That was a bit extreme. But before anything else can be done, Aunt Ida comes in to give Dawn her Batman-esque villain origin.
You make Gator leave! I got something for your face!
Yes, the old Harvey Dent Two-Face origin. Only this got both sides. Well, after time in the hospital with her head under bandages, they remove the bandages, and the Davises assure her she is even more beautiful than ever.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Makes the Mona Lisa look like a number painting.
I know, that was pretty frightening, but, well, we'll have to go with it. Once out of the hospital, she starts her artistic career, getting pictures taken, and the Davises start giving her vitamin pills, which really rev her up. And then, as a special gift, they give her a caged Aunt Ida, and Dawn takes her revenge.
Cut off the hand that threw the acid.
Whatever you say, Donald. I don't know that I'm going to chop off your scrawny little paw.
Hold it. Action. Look excited.
Well, we'll skip the hand chopping, even though it is probably the most fake thing you've ever seen. We'll bypass that. Finally, Taffy has worn her mothers down with her complaining, and she reveals who Taffy's father is. And the reunion doesn't go the way she thinks it does, especially when he whips out his equipment and asks her if she's as good in bed as her mother was. So this leads to another unfortunate incident. Well, poor Taffy. Well, she runs away back to Dawn's. Dawn, meanwhile, is in probably the funniest scene in the whole film, as she's now a star and she's strutting to show it.
Boom, 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 boom. D-I-G means look. D-I-G means stare. D-I-G means see. D-I-G means glare. D-I-G means to use your eyes, so dig, 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 you crazy guys.
I just like how I don't think the people in the long shot knew what was going on. Oh well. I still like that scene. Anyway, Dawn puts her hair in a mohawk to then go off to her big stage debut that they've been promoting. And Taffy releases Ida and then goes and joins the Hare Krishnas, as she has threatened her mother she would do. Showing up backstage at the big extravaganza, when Dawn finds out, she fulfills the promise she had made to Taffy if she ever joined the Hare Krishnas.
Shut up! Shut up!
Now, I feel bad for Taffy, but she did commit patricide, and her attempts at redemption, well... But jazzed up from this, Dawn goes out and performs her act, which includes bouncing on a trampoline, swimming in a crib full of, or I should say a playpen full of fish. She then starts shooting the audience, which causes a stampede. Yeah, going by some news stories today, that doesn't really shock me as much as it probably shocked people back when this film was released. Of the policeman just firing willy-nilly into a crowd. Anyway, we then get a little foreshadowing of what's to come.
We're innocent! We surrender! She went berserk! She was on drugs!
Don't shoot us, please! We're clean!
Next, we have a rather truncated chase through the woods before she's caught and then put on trial, where we see the full extent of the Davises' skullduggery.
She made me put on a feather dress, locked me in a birdcage, and cut off my arm with an axe.
Exhibitionism. She even scarred her own face in order to attract attention. She would talk of nothing but crime and criminal behavior, and she even seemed to idolize Richard Speck.
Her daughter Taffy came in, and they had a big fight over religious freedom. Donna and I were terrified, but stood by helplessly. The fighting continued, and Dawn strangled her daughter to death right in front of us.
Why, those sneaks. They even paid Aunt Ida to give a different view of what events happened, keeping themselves out of it, and letting Dawn take the rap. Well, Dawn's lawyer decides she needs to go on the stand, and that doesn't go well either.
What about your nightclub act, Dawn?
Oh, it was a spectacular success. A wild, fast-moving stage show with a finale to top all finales. They loved it. Even the people that died loved it. How could they not love dying if they're going to become famous for it?
Needless to say, Dawn's found guilty. And she's sentenced to the electric chair. And when the time comes, she thinks this is the greatest thing ever. It's the pinnacle of her success. There's nowhere else to go from here. And so she gives an acceptance speech, like she's won a major award.
My daughter Kathy, who died in order to further my career. My friends Chicklets and Kinsella, who should be here with me today. All the fans that died so fashionably and gallantly at my nightclub.
I think she's lost it. Well, as she winds up her speech, the switch is flipped. Wow. As Big Chuck and Little John used to say, what a movie! John Waters films, especially his early ones, are kind of hard to really critique. They're not good films, but they are uniquely his, much like Ed Wood or Ray Dennis Steckler. The reason they have fan bases, because they may not be mainstream, but they are definitely unique visions from the directors. Such a crazy film. Interesting tidbit. When this was filmed, Maryland, because it was filmed in Baltimore, of course, Maryland didn't have the death penalty anymore. It did get reinstated after the film. And so in order to film the execution, Waters built his own electric chair, which he still has, and brought it into the prison to film the scene, freaking some of the prisoners out. in the scene where Divine is walking along, strutting around, a lot of the people just didn't really react. And so it's one of the reasons he inserted the guy with the fake eye, because he needed some reaction. Because everybody's just kind of, huh. Part of it was because of the scarring makeup on her face. Could be that people assumed that they were mentally not all there, and so didn't say anything. But I first discovered Waters in college. A friend, a big Waters fan, showed me first polyester, which used a smellorama technique as a bit of a gimmick. And opening number was sung by Bill Murray, and there was like weird casting. I think one of the players was a punk rocker from one of the LA bands, and that was pretty goofy but funny, especially the ridiculous acting style some people affected. And then he showed me Pink Flamingos and said, "After you've seen this, you can truly say you have lived." And it was not the famous scene where Divine eats some dog excrement. The scene he was talking about is in this weird party, and a man has very good control over certain muscles in his sphincter area, let's say. I don't know if I could say I truly lived, but it was something I had never seen before. His films became progressively tamer as they went on. This, as I said, it's hard to critique this film. It is just so Waters. Although Rex Reed did say it was one of the worst films he'd ever seen and wanted to know where these people come from. Kind of funny coming from Rex Reed, who's a bit, but then again, he's always seemed a bit of a snobbish person. But yeah, if you don't mind a lot of swearing, full frontal male nudity, has an NC-17 rating, and some fake gore, and a plot that makes almost no sense, you might want to check it out. I can't wholeheartedly recommend it, especially not in these more divisive times where such unique visions are not always appreciated. But if you're interested in John Waters and some of his earlier work before he made Cry Baby and Hairspray, or some of his other work, it might be worth a look. And you might find yourself offended by it too. A lot of words are thrown around that aren't exactly acceptable today as they were in the 70s. But you can always take that up with Waters. Please hit like, share, and subscribe, and stay after the credits for my favorite scene.
I worry that you work in an office, have children, celebrate wedding anniversaries. The world of heterosexual is a sick and boring life.